Special mention of the organizing team, Vanita ma'am, Sairam College, and all other colleges. Perhaps this is the first program in Tamil Nadu wherein multiple colleges have come together and is organizing this program. And before I start, I think this has to become an yearly tradition. Maybe 10 days before every Diwali, before Ayurveda Day, we'll have a program like this in Tamil Nadu. This time it was in Chennai. Next time it can be in Nagarkovil and the next in Coimbatore. So that this group keeps on engaging, because it is very important the knowledge is updated every time and there is always cross connection between the fraternity as such. So I appreciate this initiative of Dr. MGR Medical University to start with from this Ayurveda Day. At the same time, we should be doing this every year. Pranams to Lord Dhanvantari. And when I say Lord Dhanvantari, for me, Lord Dhanvantari is none other than Padma Shri Dr. P.R. Krishna Kumar. It is all because of him what I am here, and perhaps many of how Ayurveda is here is because of him. So for me, Lord Dhanvantari is none other than Padma Shri Dr. P.R. Krishna Kumar ji. So what is this Ayurveda 4.0? Generation 4.0 is here. So can you say? What is Ayurveda 4.0? Actually, the feedback to the stage is not good, so I'm not feedback. I mean, what I speak and what I hear is, there is a little difference in the echo. That is why I'm eagerly looking. What is Ayurveda 4.0? Anyone? I'm asking generation 4.0. Okay, first slide. To understand what is Ayurveda 4.0, let us see what is Industry 4.0. What is Industry 4.0? So you might have learned in your school, go back to your school. You have studied in your history about Renaissance, heard about Renaissance, remember school chapters, industrialization, next slide. Industry 1.0, the first industrial revolution. When did this happen? With the discovery of steam engine. When steam started being used and steam being used to power motor, then our first phase of industrialization started. When I say our, I mean the mankind. So that is Industry 1.0. And then next, the second industrial revolution, Industry 2.0. That was when electricity was discovered. When boiling of water and generation of the steam was not required to do the same function of the motor. And that is when all the industries started bringing in large-scale manufacturing and everything. And that is the time when automobile industry also started growing. The first one, it was textile industries which led the industrial revolution. The second, it was automobile industry. Next slide. Then comes Industry 3.0, wherein computers started coming in. Computerization of things started coming in. People started using computers and everything. In industries, computers started coming in. Even in clinics, computers started coming in. So that is Industry 3.0. And when it comes to Industry 4.0, we are right now going through that revolution. I actually do not want to take any brand names, but these days, without brand names, we cannot even define science. ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, IoT, All these things are now leading the industrial revolution. The age of steam engine is over. The age of electricity and evolution based on electricity is over. The age of computers and the revolution that computers created is also over. And now it has gone to the next level wherein industries have started changing and started using artificial intelligence, blockchain, you might have heard, IoT, Internet of Things. This may look little alien, the words and the terminologies may be little unfamiliar, but all those equipments and things which you are right now using, your wristwatch is having all this technology. If you have a wristwatch which monitors your temperature, it is Internet of Things. IoT is there. Wearable rings and so many things which is coming in. You might be hearing about it that every day. And that's all happening in industry, and that is what Industry 4.0 is. And the nation which actually invests in this 4.0 revolution is going to lead the world. And this is very clear, the national policy, the budget, recent budget, everything was emphasizing on need for artificial intelligence. So from this background, we'll see what is Ayurveda 4.0. In case of Ayurveda, before 1.0, there is something called a 0.0. When our Brihatrayis and Lagutrayis were there, I would like to call it as Ayurveda 0.0. Then came the grand past of Ayurveda, Ayurveda 1.0, where the Vaidyas were leading. Every tribe or every civilization in India had a Vaidya or a family of Vaidyas which was leading the health. And when Europe or America was suffering from all kind of health problems, India never suffered that because these Vaidyas and these traditions were in root and we knew health and managing our health better at that time. And that is the grand past which we had, a time when all the traditions, all the tribes were having a Vaidya. There were Vaidya families which looked after the well-being of that particular region. And that is why we all survived. Right now, India is one of the largest populous country. It's all because of the healthcare system which we had within us. And then comes Ayurveda 2.0. Next slide, please. This was a time when we had a dip. The colonial disruption was there. And of course, then revival was required. You know, Ayurveda was marginalized during the British rule. And that was a time also freedom movements were organized. I'm proud to say my grandfather was a secretary of Ayurveda Mandalam, founder secretary, which was an organization which was created to fight against the British, which was a freedom movement basically. And that was a time when the revival of Ayurveda was being taken. There is establishment of institutions started because of that. In fact, in some way, some suppression actually creates an excellence. And that is what, as a community, we should also be going through right now, even. Then, Ayurveda 3.0, after independence, we got a lot of, Ayurveda started being recognized. Even during freedom struggle, Gandhiji has once said, India may not need any other medical system because India has its own medical system. That was the prevalence of Ayurveda at that time, and then we have created a lot of institutions. To be precise, Tamil Nadu MGR Medical University is running its own BAMS course, along with the MBBS and other things. And the global recognition, probably the term Panchakarma became more popular than Ayurveda as such. And that was the time when globally people started recognizing more and more. Ayurveda. Next. So what we have seen right now is we are going through now. Now, at this moment, we are actually in a transition phase. How many in this group is right now wearing a smartwatch? Please raise your hands. Smartwatch? Yes. How many of you have monitoring temperature in that? Facility to monitor your body temperature? Yes. So we are right now in a transition phase wherein we have already entered into Industry 4.0, and from Ayurvedic perspective, for Ayurveda, what Ayurveda 4.0 is going to be, let us see with some examples. And when I say examples, please do not limit to these examples because the possibilities are n. What I say should not limit your brain is what I should say. Your brain should find new possibilities of what is actually there in Ayurveda. Next slide. Just imagine a wearable device. I'm talking specifically about IoT, Internet of Things. What your smartwatch right now, which is doing, giving you a temperature, or giving you a blood pressure, or speaking about your oxygen saturation, this feedback which comes from the human body and then converting into a measurable component, or which can help us. These are, I'm not going into the technical definitions of IoT, but this is what IoT means. Just imagine you can monitor a heart rate and everything right now. In the same way, if we are able to track the imbalance in your dosha, and you know doshas are personalized, and this personalization, if it can be read by your wearable device, and your wearable device can alert about the deviation in your personalization, that is where Ayurveda 4.0 will begin. This may look a bit supernatural at this time, but actually it is not. There are a lot of advances which is happening in this sector and in this way. I'll talk about the positives more today. At the same time, towards the end, I'll also tell what is the danger in that also. What is in the danger in the sense how we should be very careful while trying to migrate to these platforms. So having said this, let me tell at the outset, I'm not going to talk anything about biotechnology today, because last 10-15 years, a lot of people have spoken about it. You already know about Prakriti's correlation with genetics, and how genetics can actually predict Prakriti and even Vikriti. All these experiments are going on one side, and it will keep on going, and it's all going to add a lot of information into our understanding. And I think many people in many conferences are already speaking about that. So I'm skipping the biotechnology part of it and focusing on this futuristic aspects. Things which I have said here, this has already started happening, monitoring your sleep, predicting your sleep nature, predicting the way how sleep is impacting your awakeness. Right now you all have completed your lunch. And if you all had a watch like this, which is monitoring your awakefulness, and if I could sense it here in my hand, just imagine, I could start calling, hello, that person with the maroon shirt at the corner, please be attentive. Or the one with the sky blue shirt here, please be attentive. That is the way how technology is going to be. And this is exactly how Ayurvedic doctors will also be able to assess multiple aspects of it. For that, something else has to happen. Let's see what is it. Next slide. Then I can speak a lot about the possibilities. I will skip more slides because it's all about possibilities. And when I speak about these possibilities, all this single line, I have not imagined. I have taken it from the experiences which I had in past 3-4 months engaging with a lot of startups. And few of them coming from non-Ayurvedic sector as such, but when we look into the logic of what they are actually working in, it is closely related to Ayurveda, and it is as a community, we Ayurvedic community, which has to be very open and adapt this technology. Stethoscope was invented for what? It was invented for what? For MBBS doctors. Are we using stethoscope now? And what was it invented for? To understand the breathing pattern and the heartbeat. And it was not meant for MBBS doctors alone. If we could adopt that, all these technologies can be adopted in understanding of Ayurveda also. Next slide. You can, the possibility is actually N. That is why I've put from all the examples which I've gotten my personal experience in the last 3-4 months, I've just put those terminologies. Next. All this is possible. I hope you can see the slide, right? Don't go into the explanation. Post-treatment monitoring. Can the last row read that? Then in biofeedback during treatments. I'm talking about all these possibilities. Next. Health data collection. This is where all this instrumentation is going to aid us. Then monitoring the plant, this is already happening. A popular company in India have already launched this for cash crops. And soon all this will be coming into medicinal plant farming also. How to monitor. Right now we'll be able to judge the drug only after receiving at the QC or the QA of a manufacturer. But in future, we will be able to know whether the medicine is growing well, whether it has so and so phytochemicals or so and so aspects to it while it is growing itself. And we will be able to optimize it for better use while agriculture itself. And that's where the technology is taking us. Next. This is going to be very crucial for integrative medicine also. What differences Ayurveda, for example, there is a famous example of Dr. Geeta Krishnan, this case which has been published wherein an infection in mouth, which was a multi-drug resistant infection treated in Medanda. A group of experts were trying to cure that, but this recurrent infection in the mouth of a patient was never getting healed, and Dr. Geeta Krishnan was there as a head of the Ayurveda of Medanda Hospital. He treated with just Triphala Churnam. Instead of giving Triphala Churnam, he has just brushed Triphala Churnam on the wound size or on the throat. So he had the expertise of the surgeons there to assess the throat properly, apply it, and this multi-drug resistant wound in the throat which was not healing was healed by Ayurveda, and with just Triphala. So what I'm telling is this integrations where both systems come in and monitoring, and when Ayurvedic medicine goes, what difference it creates, everything will be known better. And you know, the possibilities are N. There is even an educational policy which has been drafted and coming, wherein the children at school should be taught based on their Deha and Manasa Prakriti. Curriculums based on Manasa Prakriti of individual, and already there is one school in Bangalore which has started operational based on such a curriculum. Next. So IoT is about gathering data in real time and providing continuous feedback. This is what IoT is going to do. And when we have more and more IoT devices, it is giving us multiple data points basically. Next slide. So coming to artificial intelligence. Now I have spoken about data points with n number of possibilities. All those data points, when we have large number of data and statistically correlated. Are you all able to follow what I'm trying to say? We have IoT devices which gives you data from multiple points. All this data from mass number of people, we'll be able to say how each person is behaving and how population, subpopulations and subgroups within the subpopulations are behaving, and this can actually result in prediction of a particular character or a particular process in someone when examined. And this is nothing but artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is nothing superhuman. It all depends upon the data which we have already given. And that comes from the IoT devices. That data gathered, when we have more and more data, what is it? It can give some knowledge. And that is what AI is, artificial intelligence is about. Artificial intelligence is not magic. It's only based on what data we have fed. So when I say an example, probably you are looking into multiple parameters, multiple biochemical parameters in a body with an IoT device. And you are doing this in multiple Prakriti types. When you have data for a long period, slowly we can teach the device to understand which Prakriti the person is supposed to be. Supposed to be in the sense which Prakriti it could be. And this is what artificial intelligence actually does. This is just one example. I am taking the common example of Prakriti so that everybody understands, and it's also easy for me to convey. But the possibility is not just to Prakriti or Vikriti. The possibilities are n which U 4.0 has to come up with. Next. 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 So AI is about analyzing, interpreting data, predicting outcomes, and optimizing treatment plans. So Internet of Things will give data points, and multiple data points. From there we will have multiple data will collate into knowledge, and that knowledge can become, we can analyze that knowledge, interpret that knowledge, and can be used for predicting. And then even optimizing treatment plans of each person. Again and again I'm repeating, please do not get locked into the example which I'm saying. Read beyond what I'm trying to say. I'm taking examples so that this conversation between me and you becomes easier. Next slide. So just to summarize IoT and AI, IoT is largely reactive. Depending upon the real-time changes in the body, it could give results, and it's more reactive. Just like temperature, when the temperature goes beyond the normal temperature, your smartwatch may start beeping. While AI can be predictive. You understood the difference, right? Next slide. So, IoT focuses on data collection, real-time monitoring, and feedback system, and this can be for anything, for a patient, For a manufacturer, it could be a different aspect from the raw material example. While AI helps in analyzing the data, predicting outcomes, and making informed decisions. How many of you are obsessive about evidence-based practice? You heard about evidence-based practice? Hello 4.0. Heard about evidence-based medicine? Please don't be obsessed on evidence-based medicine. Because our system is far more superior than that, and we should focus on practice-based evidence right now. And practice-based evidence comes when? What stage of clinical trial it is? Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4? Practice-based evidence is when? Post-market surveillance. All Ayurvedic medicines right now, especially classical medicines, are right now on post-market surveillance. When you ask where is evidence, our classical texts are our evidence. That is where we have published our evidence. And is your evidence contemporary? That means right now we will have to focus on practice-based evidence. And again, probably last 60 years or at least 40 years, Krishna Kumarji was only trying to say, always document your practice. Always document your practice. Why? And document your practice doesn't mean only publishing case reports or anything. He could actually see Ayurveda 4.0 coming in. If the past generation has documented their consultation, and if we had a data pool wherein we could measure everything right now, all these devices would have happened just like this. But we are not failing. We still have scope. So I request the 4.0 from your practice onwards, make sure every data point of your patient is recorded. And these data points are going to become knowledge, which is going to become an AI device, which is going to make your practice more interactive with the patient. Next slide. Coming to blockchain. This is another buzzword, I should say. These are all buzzwords, but technically it's all something which is happening around us. We can actually store informations into multiple pockets, and whenever required, we can withdraw that and use it at the data point where it is required. So, can you give an example of a blockchain information? An example for blockchain. I've said you a very practical definition of blockchain. A blockchain means informations are segregated into multiple pockets, and whenever required, for what is required, we will be able to access that. So now you should tell the example for blockchain. Our samhitas are blockchains. Charaka Samhita, Shushruta Samhita, Ashtanga Hridayam, all the slogas in that are, each stanza of the sloga is a data of blockchain. And if we are able to process that when required, when the symptoms are said, and if the system is able to bring those slogas and connect it to and integrate, then it becomes blockchain. Simple. what we were all doing, or at least our ancestors, I don't know whether we were that good, they were doing this. Next slide. And the possibilities like data, safety of data, how people can keep the data information, and there is n number of things which is happening. Next slide. Next slide. These are all possibilities of how these changes could actually bring in. And when I say all these examples which I said, IoT or AI or blockchain, these are not things which is going to bring a change in you in Chennai, or just in Chennai, or not just in India. These changes are going to be global. Next slide. Then I said IoT. IoT creates data points. More and more data points create knowledge, and more knowledge, possibilities of developing blockchain. And when we already have a blockchain, then what becomes big data. There is even program on MSc Big Data, data science. You might have heard about it, postgraduate program in data science. If you are able to do a program in data science and come back to Charaka Samhita and create a block chain kind of system, wherein when you feed in your symptoms, your system is able to say that probably these are the conditions which is going to affect you, and that is what big data is. And I'm so glad to say that last 16 years I had been working on something called as DARA, Digital Helpline for Ayurvedic Research Abstracts, which is basically a collection of publications in Ayurveda, within Ayurveda journals and also outside the Ayurveda journals. And a step ahead, right now it is not in the front end, but we do have the data at the back end, wherein all our plans, whatever studies of the plans which is used in Ayurveda, which may be medical, non-medical, agriculture related, everything is actually there with us in the database basically. Right now what you see in the front end is only the medical studies, but what we have in the back end is actually huge than that. And this is one small example wherein you can actually have, in fact, background works are working on it, you'll have a predictive prescription assistant. When you try to prescribe a particular medicine, when you try to say about a medicine for a particular condition, the system will say that there is published evidence for this. And this is how big data are actually working. I've just taken an example just for you to understand. I hope everyone is able to understand what I'm trying to say, right? And the rest is left to you. You have the scope of imagining. Next. Then I'm talking more from the personal observations which I have. Right now, the company which I was working earlier, Arya Vaidya Pharmacy, they are working on a project called as backward integration, wherein the company wants to know every drug which comes into the manufacturing table or the manufacturing thing, they want to know the origin, where the plant is grown, what is the quality of the seedling which has been used in that. And for this, even backward integration and buyback guarantee agreements and a lot of things are happening. Of course, it's in a limited size right now, but it is all going to expand. And the whole idea is to develop a blockchain on the supply of the raw materials. And in fact, this has been achieved in few of the goods there, few of the products there, wherein the sapling which is given from the company is actually used, and that is cultivated by the farmers, bought directly by the company and used, so that the source is known, the quality is already known, and that is used for production. I'm just taking this for an example. The possibilities are beyond this actually. Next. Basically, as I said, big data is possibility of integrating multiple informations from multiple sites, bringing into one informative piece of communication which helps you in, and when we say it as Ayurveda 4.0, it should help a clinician in better clinical decision, or it should help a patient to understand his clinical condition better, or it should help a manufacturer to make his products better, or it should help the supplier to supply his products better. Next. So, big data plays a unique role in managing large volumes of diverse data, making it critical for advanced research, predictive analysis, analytics, and public health information, global policies of how we actually deal with this. Then IoT can actually create real-time data. AI, again, I'm just summarizing what I've said. AI, the data can be used, processed, and then can be used for predictive. Blockchain, again, creates magics from the data created from the multiple aspects. Next slide. So you have heard about basically a lot of technology which is coming and how it is changing. Now, let me tell you the not so good side of what I am talking now. As a community, are we prepared for this? Do we have enough data points for this? The current Prakriti analysis which has been done by the softwares, are they correct? Do we have enough statistical informations to say the predictions done by the wristwatches about your Prakriti is accurate? All this is big questions, and this is where we will have to really put our inputs, because the data which I said, which is created from the IoT and which makes the artificial intelligence, the data should be clean. By clean, I mean the original data should go in volumes. I should say, as a community, we are even now failing to create these data points. The next step as a community, by community I mean doctors, industry, everyone, should be to create a means to get all this data points synchronized and get into one particular database, so that all what we see as the possibilities, which I said as possibilities in previous slides, to happen, it is very important that clean data has to be collected. So this is the caution which I have told. Ayurveda 4.0 is very colorful. When I say Ayurveda 4.0, it is a lot of butterflies. But the fact is, if the input data which goes into the informations which we are creating, or the instruments which we are feeding, if it is not correct, it's going to create a cascade of mistakes. So to avoid a situation of cascade of mistakes, I've got the sheet, it's time for me. We will have to be very careful about how actually we have to collect the data. Very quickly, let me say, the end of trade-driven Ayurveda is eventually happen. Right now, there is a lot of companies coming, a lot of products, a lot of that, this and all, a lot of phenomena is going on, but it's going to end. And the age of data-driven or knowledge-driven Ayurveda is beginning, and for that, U 4.0 is there. Next slide. Next slide. So how startups are changing Ayurveda? faster innovation and adaptability. There are instruments which is actually looking into Nadi and telling your Prakriti. And not just one company, multiple companies have come into this field. Not from India alone, even from outside India, a lot of companies have started manufacturing such equipments and biosensors. Then tech-driven solutions for modern healthcare. And by modern healthcare, I do not mean modern medicine. Then global reach and scalability, as I said, what you do in Chennai can the next day replicated in Washington. That is the scalability of all these technologies. And then focus on personalization and preventive care. You know, looking at your DNA, there are methods to say that whether you will become an alcoholic or not. There are methods for that. And right now we are also exploring whether we can use in cure of Madatya such informations also as a part of FGAM, which I am also engaged with. Then focus on consumer-centric business models can be created. Raising global awareness and engagement, next. Fostering sustainable practices, innovation in product development and delivery, data-driven clinical validation, streamlining supply chain. I'll tell one example. You all know Pal Kashayams or Shira Kashayams are important. We all know India has led dairy revolution. You have packed milks, tetra packets and everything. But not a single Ayurveda industry have been able to launch Shira Kashayams. Why? Because of unable to track the raw material from the time it has been taken, processed and then supplied. These devices is also going to help in us, and very soon you will see Shira Kashayams in tetra packets. Then democratizing Ayurvedic education, a lot of learning platforms are already getting launched, and ultimately only one which gives quality is going to survive. All other apps, Ayurveda learning apps and all will die. Then leveraging AI, IoT, blockchain and big data. This all things are being done by startups. And this 29th October, a new division of ICANE or an independent block of ICANE is getting inaugurated in Delhi. And there is a lot of funding which has been kept for startups and technologies like this getting integrated into Ayurveda. Next slide. So remember, it is the end of trade-driven Ayurveda and it is the beginning of knowledge-driven Ayurveda. Thank you.